it's the same as having like 5 or 10 kilos of cocaine.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's because remember they wanted to
get it off the street, right? Yeah.
I think Bush held up the bought cocaine, and they bought it right in the park across the street from the White House. President Bush.
Yeah.
That's up. So they made the law. I forgot what the name of the law was, but to deter people from selling crack, they slammed you. So I meet this guy and I order 3 ounces of cooked cocaine, crack cocaine, because then I sink him in for good. It's over 40 grams. It's quite a few grams over 40.
I want to stop you for 1 minute. I hate to judge people by their appearance, but there is no way you fit in the projects. All right?
No.
Not with a Val at the end of your name.
No.
How did you...
They thought he was all mobbed up, so they're afraid of him.
Is that what it was?
They did.
They thought you were mobbed up.
Yeah, and they figured there must be something going on here for this guy to just walk in here.
We ain't going to fuck with him.
And not be afraid of us.
You got balls the size of cantaloupes, man. Just...
Yeah, they thought that. Yeah, they were a little taken back by me just walking around with a tank top on and, no gun and stuff. So when I negotiate this 3-ounce deal of crack, we meet, and he had a Jeep at the time with blacked out windows, and 4Runners were. There weren't that many Jeeps on the road in the late '80s or early '90s. They were out there, but kind of unusual. And it was all blacked out, tinted windows. And I get in the car with him and his brother, and he gives me a bag. He says, "Okay, all right, I'm about to give him the money." And he says, "You gonna try it?" I'm like, "Try it. I don't fucking smoke coke, crack." He said, "No, that's coke." I'm like, "Bro, I don't want coke. I could get coke anywhere. I'm coming to you because you guys are supposedly the guys that know how to cook this shit."
Big crack guys.
Yeah. And I give it back to him. I said, "Now go cook this up." So he goes home. We meet the next day or later that night, and he brings me back 3 ounces of cooked cocaine, and he was sunk.
Yeah.
That was it.
And he knew it probably after he got taken in.
When he got taken in, and he talks about how he was how he was targeted by the feds. And I don't know if we could say we actually targeted him, but we ended up getting the guy that, we wanted. And he talks about how JD sings about him, and JD actually stole his persona on these songs, and JD actually mentions him in a couple of songs, and talks about using the McDonald's on 142nd and Broadway to do a deal, and that's why I did deals with this guy. So yeah, this guy is actually like a.
But that's not the only high-profile case you worked on. Like I said, I've done as much research as I can on you. Am I to understand that you worked on the Eton Paetz?
Yes, I worked on Eton.
So give us that was real high profile. You
didn't get much more high profile than that in New York,
right?
Yeah.
So it's still out there now.
Just give us a little background on the Eton Paetz case.
Yeah. So Eton Paetz was a little boy that was in 1979. He was going to go to school for the first time by himself. The mother was going to let him walk to the school bus by himself.
He was Hasidic, right? Was he Hasidic or was he?
I don't know if I don't think they're Hasidic. They're just religious Jews. And the mother was watching the little boy out the window, and she literally, according to all accounts, turned her head for a minute. When she turned her head back, the kid was gone, and he never was seen again. And he was actually the first
milk carton kid, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, he's the first milk carton kid. I don't know how I
right.
didn't remember that, but that's what I do remember.
You should have been on a milk carton.
You're on a sour milk carton. But that right there, you worked on? There was that one guy who copped to it, right?
Right. So it went up until just a few years ago, unsolved, basically. And of course, I didn't work on it in 1979. I was a kid. But I do remember being on the buses and seeing the missing person, Eton Paetz. Reagan made May 25th National Missing Child Day because of the kid. But anyway, it went unsolved, and then they eventually arrest a guy named Hernandez. I don't remember his first name. I was going to say
it was Gutierrez or
Hernandez. The last name.
Yeah.
And the first trial was a mistrial, and then they retried him and they convicted him.
Did they find the body?
Didn't he fess up though when he still had a mistrial?
Well, he's got a lot. That's the thing. So they charged this guy who has a history of mental disorder, mental disease. His family says that he's, obviously he's not all there and he hasn't been there for his whole life, basically. And after all these years, he came forward saying he's the one who took the kid and killed him in the basement of a bodega, right, not far from where he was missing. And the bottom line is, who knows if he was actually telling the truth.
Yeah.
Now, I had nothing to do with the Hernandez part of it, with that guy. My investigation's completely different, and I'm not saying my investigation is correct or incorrect, and I don't know if Hernandez did it or if...
I know there's a lot of controversy whether he did it or not.
Right.
Did they find the body? They
No.
dug up a basement.
They dug up they never found the body.
They never found the body. What a sin. So your way into that was from a different angle.
Right.
All right.
Completely different.
And it was through cults?
Yeah. For a short time, I was in the missing person unit, NYPD. And I get a call from an inmate from Attica. And I kind of remember him asking for me by name, but I may be wrong because it was a long time ago. But for some reason, I thought the inmate asked for me, but I may be wrong. But in any event, I get on the phone with this guy. And he tells me that he has information regarding Eton Paetz, but he screws up the name. He doesn't say Eton. I forgot how he says the name, but he screws up the first name and he butchers the last name a little bit, which kind of led me to think that maybe there is something to this guy. Because if he was going to call me up with a bullshit story,
It would be correct.
he would have his ducks in a row. I mean, that's what I thought anyway. So I kind of perked my ears up a little bit. And he tells me he's got information regarding the kid that he's been holding in for quite a few years. He's due for parole and he wants to get out. And that's why he wants to talk. So I obviously make the trip up to Attica to talk to this guy. Want me to go into it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because I know it ties into another
It
big
does.
case.
Yeah, it does. They kind of
Yeah.
tie in. So we go up to Attica, and he's a big, he's like a 350, 400-pound guy. He's a biker, vice president of a biker gang called the Rat Pack, which is a legitimate, I've looked into it then. I've looked into it even after I retired. I even looked into it more because I ran into somebody that knew the Rat Pack. And it was a legitimate 1% bike gang under, I think, the Hells Angels, but maybe not. Maybe under maybe the Pagans, Mongols. But anyway, they're under another big club. Anyway, he's in Attica for sodomizing his infant daughter.
Holy cow.
And I think he had another kid that he was in for, and the wife was involved also. The wife flipped on him. But even though it's kind of, the whole thing is kind of so coincidental because I even knew the guy who locked him up before I was a cop. And the guy who locked him up was in the police academy at the time. And he was told, again, it's a real coincidence, but I know this guy, I haven't spoken to him in years, but apparently the biker's babysitter told this friend of mine that this guy's having sex with his daughter. The friend of mine actually rode a bike and was a tough guy. He's in the police academy. Of course, they don't know that. And he starts to hang around with them. And he actually catches in the act the guy. So he locks him up and he locks another biker up who was in the apartment or in the house.
There's a special place in hell for these people. There really is.
But it ties into what he tells me is, so now when I go up to see him, of course I know what he's in the joint for. He tells me that him and his biker gang were contracted to do security for this satanic cult up in Westchester and Yonkers. And they would go up there wearing their colors, and they'd keep the cops away if the cops were to intervene, and they would keep any pain-in-the-ass civilians away if they were going to try to get into these parties. And he secures the places so frequently that they get to know him. The higher-ups in this, it's actually satanic rituals going on in these houses, these mansions. They get to know him by him being there so frequently that he becomes involved. They let him in, and they let the president of the biker club in, and they let I think one other guy in. And there's drugs and sex, and I've always said that the satanic shit is just a backdrop for the sex and drugs. You know what I mean?
It's a front.
It's like a front just to get gullible people involved and all that stuff. But anyway, he's there one day, and according to him, There's a makeshift altar. They call out the kid, and it's this kid. And they measure him with a rope. And as they're going to sacrifice him, he leaves because he doesn't want to see it. But perps always do that anyway. They take themselves out of the actual crime scene, right? But he says that that's what really happened to the kid, and they sacrifice him. And
but that also ties into the next case,
right,
which is Son of Sam.
right,
And is that the same cult?
yeah. So according to this guy, it's the Son of Sam. And when Berkowitz was originally arrested, he said that Berkowitz killed on behalf of his neighbor's dog.
Yeah, his dog.
Right. He recanted that a few years later.
Sam was the dog, wasn't it?
Sam was the neighbor.
Was the neighbor?
The son of Sam was the dog.
Well, I know he's still talking about this portion of his life as it's all part of a satanic cult. He's been pushing that narrative for a long time.
Well, when he started to talk about it, they actually got him in jail and they cut his face. They just missed his jugular by, I don't know, a quarter of an inch. And he hasn't talked in years. And he's born again and all that stuff. But he refuses to talk one way or the other. And his reasoning is he still has family who's alive. And the way they got him, they could get his family. That's according to him. And again, but yes, this is the same cult that he was involved with. And according to the inmate whose nickname is Tiny, his real name is John Lentini. He had actually seen Berkowitz in passing.
I always wondered about that because here's a guy who looks like a loner. He's got the Andy Kaufman haircut.
He had those faraway eyes too.
Yeah, I watched a lot of things on David Berkowitz, just the psychology behind it. I never truly believed that he's the only one. What is it, the 44 caliber
Right,
killer?
44 caliber killer.
Yeah, I just never believed that, and it's pretty. I mean, you got to understand something. You're talking about living history. With those two cases alone, that's living history, and the people who are intimately involved in those cases, they're going their separate ways. You decide after all this stuff, it's time to hang it up. Was it a tough decision for you, or was it just your time?
Honestly, I had more problems with bosses on this job, and I'm not a boss fighter. I don't mean problems where I did 20 and I retired out of the West African Task Force and the Secret Service electronic crimes. There were two task forces in the Secret Service, and I was a sergeant. And NYPD, the bosses, were so afraid that something positive was going to make the paper, and they weren't going to be. NYPD's name wasn't going to be front and center. This is God's honest truth. We had hit a door. Now, I was good friends with one of the Secret Service supervisors, a guy named Bob Weaver, a really good guy. I mean, a really good guy. All the Secret Service agents are hard workers. I didn't do protection. We did case. We did investigation. Yeah. So we hit the door. I don't remember exactly what case it was, but it was going to be a high-profile case. I told the chief prior and what we were doing, and we hit the door. As soon as we hit the door, we secured it. Everybody's handcuffed. I go outside to call the chief because it was so ingrained in my head that if Secret Service wasn't going to do that. They're not publicity hounds at all. I promise you, they could care less. But if in the event it would have made the papers, let's say right there and then, let's just say they got somebody from the newspaper found out about it, and our name wasn't front and center, they were going to hang me. So I walk outside and I call the chief up. I said, all right, we got four guys under. So far we recovered this and this. I'll let you know. And I hang up, and the guy, Bob Weaver's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I had to call my chief. He's like, yeah, but we're not even done here. I says, I know we're not done. But I had to call him because they're so afraid that we're not going to be.
Yeah. Someone else is going to take the credit. And
and I was like, but and Bob was like, like I said, he could care less about the press. He's like, all right. I'm like, you're fucking right. What am I doing? I'm worrying about these bosses. I have more problems with bosses. And I'm like, you know what? I did 20 years. And
he's a boss, by the way. I just want to point that out. He's a boss.
Yeah, but I wasn't your typical boss.
No,
I was a road
that.
boss. I wasn't an administrative guy or anything like that.
Well, you should have been.
I made it up to lieutenant, and I always said you'd never know I was a boss because I wasn't a go do this, go do that.
Right.
Let's go do this.
But
Right.
you end up retiring, and it seems like you've taken care of yourself, which is contrary to a normal retired cop.
Right.
And that reminds me. So
You didn't put on a retired 25,
yeah, right. So one of our sponsors is a company called XBody. If you go to xbodyus.com, and they specialize. We have a liaison. They specialize in first responders, and it's really body health, because body health equates to mental health, which we focus heavily on mental health. So yeah, just everybody go take a look at XBody US. But you got something interesting going on. You real big into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I know you're a 3rd degree black belt. How important is it to you to take care of your body for your mental well-being?
Well, it's just something I've always done, really.
Yeah.
And I think if I wasn't doing it, I think I'd have a bit of an issue. I feel it goes pretty much hand in hand.
Well,
a lot of it's stress release also.
Right. Absolutely.
We get so much stress from the job, you eat that stress or you go work it off.
Right.
I'm a big believer in that every cop needs to go through Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, at least make it to, say, purple belt, something along those lines, because somebody who doesn't know how to use their hands, especially in this modern climate, somebody who doesn't know how to use their hands on might go a little quicker to the weapon, and now whether right, wrong, it doesn't matter. You're tried in the court of public appeal. Would you agree with that statement, knowing what you know?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, like I actually mentioned this a few times in my book. If you pull your gun and a guy tells you, go scratch your ass.
Yeah, go fuck off.
Now what?
Now what? Now you got a paperweight in your hand.
Yeah. What do you do?
Now you get and the most embarrassing thing would be to reholster and then go hands on.
Right.
Right. But you're also at a deficit. Now you got one hand because you can't let go of this.
Right.
We were taught in the academy, throw it as far away as you can, but even there's dangers in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you just create this new life after retirement.
Right.
And where you got the Codella Academy, which is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You write Alphaville 1988, and I know you've been in a couple movies as well.
Right.
So where can our audience find you? Let's talk about some of the stuff that you're doing now.
Okay. I have a YouTube page. YouTube channel rather. It's Mike Codella Up Against the Wall, and I basically go over a lot of stories like I just did with you, and stories as a cop and things that are in my book.
Because as much as people like listening this day and age to gangster stories, they like hearing these really good behind the scene cop stories. Because
feel good cop stories.
Yeah, everybody's
behind the scenes,
interested.
not the stuff that really hit the paper. How it got to the paper.
Right.
And how much. How did you go about reinventing yourself?
That's a good question.
He comes up with one every once in a while. Blind squirrel finds a nut.
He loves me, Mike. Don't worry about it. He loves me. We're gonna go spoon afterwards. So we're good
Again.
I was training my whole life, really, my whole career, and then it was just kind of like a natural progression. When I first got out, I did a little PR work, and it really wasn't for me. I wasn't into following cheating husbands or cheating wives or none of that stuff. So I just
The TV show Cheaters.
Yeah, right.
The guy running behind you with a camera.
right.
That's why you and your wife never fought.
Why
You
is
just
that?
put her in a Kimura and that's it. Argument over.
Right. Chokehold.
Chokehold. That's right.
That's right.
Well, we've spoken on the phone, and you actually know my instructor, George Enzo Gracie in Denville.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
guy.
yeah. He's a dangerous guy. And,
Yes.
he's just this little unassuming guy. He'll put you in a pretzel.
Yeah, I know him a long time.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Now, where's your academies on Staten Island?
Staten Island.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that seems to be thriving. Because
Yes.
I saw that picture you just took. You posted all your students. That probably wasn't even all your students.
No, that was recent. And Henzo Gracie was just there a couple of weeks ago.
So
Came and trained with
you
us.
should have brought Henzo with
Yeah,
you.
I know.
I just
Well,
try to take him.
Get him in here.
I'll tell him he assaulted me. Go take him down. Put him in a pretzel.
He's like one of the guys that could just take me down one finger,
I wouldn't even. Listen,
he's a tough guy.
I've seen what these guys can do. 150-pound guy. I'm 230 pounds. They lock me up and just make me scream. But they're the most calm guys in the world. They're the
Yeah.
most calm guys in the world because
Because they're unassuming.
they know they can just
Oh, yeah.
put you in a pretzel and stuff like that.
Because they look at guys like us and just go, right.
So what's next for you?
Well, actually, they're trying to. Production company in Hollywood is trying to get my book. own the right to the book, and they're trying to get it produced into a docuseries.
I was going to ask that if you got approached by any Hollywood execs.
Yeah,
or anything
well,
like
it was
that.
actually bought, optioned, I want to say 3 times. De Niro, initially, when it first came out, De Niro and Spike Lee and Showtime bought it. And they held it for about 2 years, and they never did anything with it. And then Brad Furman, he did The Lincoln Lawyer, and he did a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I know he is.
Yeah, Brad Furman optioned it, and they owned it for about 3 years, and they couldn't get it done either. And now this production company in L.A. wants to make a docu-series out of it.
Well, I had heard that Chaz Palminteri had some of the similar problems that you're having. There, people wanted to buy it and they wanted to hold it, and they were telling him the movie's never going to get made, and
Right.
so he sort of finagled it in such a way where he was broke, like he didn't have any money, and he held on to this beautiful script called Bronx Tale, which I'm sure growing up the way you did, you can sort of relate to in certain ways.
Yeah.
So where again, you're on I know you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook.
Yes.
You want to give those out?
Yeah, the Instagram is, Codella Academy, at Codella Academy. And it's also, I have 2. And the other one is Alphaville 1988. And again, the YouTube page is Mike Codella Up Against the Wall.
We're going to put all those in our show notes, so make sure you go check those out. I have not read Alphaville. I read excerpts because my book, Amazon, doesn't seem to want to deliver this to me for whatever reason. I tried to read it before you came in there.
Did you pay your bill, you cheap bastard?
Jesus. So much love in this room, isn't it? You've seen a lot throughout your career, and you've seen a lot of different suffering. The one that you told us with the little kid, I mean, heartbreaking, and then a biker having sex with his, I can't imagine all this
We
stuff.
went through those stories too. I don't know if you know Clint McGregor.
No.
He was NYPD. He was in the
7-5, right?
he was in homicide.
He was in homicide. He was a homicide sergeant.
And he came in and told us a couple stories with
children. And,
children.
It's all
Disgusting.
Yeah.
What do you think you've learned from seeing all this trauma throughout all of your life?
That's, I always say just regarding not only the trauma, but just life in general, that, it could be any one of us. It's like they're before the grace of God with the mistakes that I've made as a kid and that we've all made. Well, maybe different degrees of ignorance that we had, but like they're before the grace of God. We could easily be one of these guys looking for dope on the street, or raised a kid in such a bad environment where the kid has no chance. I think you have to have a little. Sometimes you have to have a little common sense, but you have to be a little bit lucky too to make the right choices.
What would we say? We're all one step away from indictment.
Right.
You take one wrong step, you're getting indicted for something.
Right.
I enjoyed hearing all these stories because I'm an avid historian of especially police work, because some of these great stories and how they were worked and how from behind the scenes, from the people who were there, I think they're invaluable stories, and I think they need to be told more. And I know that's what you're doing with your YouTube channel. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
And it's nice to hear from a guy like Mike, who he has a genuine love for law enforcement.
It's
not like you took the job
like you.
For the pay and the benefit, yeah.
Like you. He's Bergen County. Listen, he's a Bergen County kid. Don't let him fool you. Bergen County, they get paid. They get paid really, really well.
No, but, like I said, you could tell he had a genuine love for the job. And like I said, if you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life.
True.
Like I said, just going in, it was hanging out with the guys.
Right.
And that's what you miss about it, probably.
Right.
You miss the clowns, not the circus.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's right.
Mike, thank you so much for coming in today. This
you're
has
welcome.
been very, very... Not you. Not you. I tried to give you the wrong address, and you keep showing up here. You're like a lost penny. You always turn up. But I really do appreciate you coming in here and talking to us. And this has been very special for us, especially coming from our background. We love hearing this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
And-
definitely thanks for coming. I appreciate it. It's great meeting you.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast. Follow Mike at Mike_Failace. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson. Don't forget to follow the Suffering Podcast. Go to thesufferingpodcast.com. Check out our challenge coins. They go to a worthy cause. They go to denteddevelopmentproject.com, which helps first responders and their families repair dents caused by suffering. And that's going to do it. We will see you on the next episode. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and like if you like what you're seeing. See you next time.